It's 2 in the morning, or you're in the shower, or you're driving somewhere familiar enough that your hands know the route without you. And then it happens. A conversation from 3 days ago slides back in, or 3 months ago, or 3 years. A specific exchange, maybe one that lasted 4 minutes in real life, and suddenly you're back inside it, replaying it, rewinding it, editing it, saying the thing you should have said, noticing the thing you missed, running it forward into every possible version of what it might have meant. And the worst part? You already know how it ends. You've seen this one before, but the brain keeps running it anyway. You're not obsessive, you're not unstable, you're not someone who can't let go. What your brain is actually doing when it pulls you back into those old conversations at 2 in the morning, in the shower, on the drive, is one of the most misunderstood and genuinely fascinating processes in all of cognitive psychology. Today, we're going to follow it all the way to the source. Today, we're breaking down the hidden meaning behind why you constantly replay old conversations in your head. And I want to be clear about something up front. This isn't a malfunction. It isn't anxiety spiraling, and it isn't your brain punishing you for something you did wrong. It's a system doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem isn't that it runs. The problem is that nobody ever explained to you what it was running for. Once you understand that, the replays don't stop. But they stop feeling like evidence that something is wrong with you. Start here, with what a memory actually is. Because most people have it wrong. Your brain is not a recording device. It doesn't store experiences the way a camera stores footage, complete, fixed, final. It stores experiences as reconstructions, fragments of sensory data, emotional tone, physical sensation, interpreted meaning, all loosely held together and reassembled fresh every time you access them. Which means every time you revisit a conversation, your brain isn't just playing it back, it's rebuilding it. With whatever new information, new emotional context, new understanding you have right now. Neuroscientists call this memory reconsolidation. And the reason it matters here is this. Every time a memory is retrieved, it becomes briefly unstable, malleable, open to revision. Your brain isn't replaying the conversation to torture you. It's reopening the file because some part of it has concluded the file isn't finished yet. The replay is a signal. Specifically, the signal that something here hasn't been resolved. Follow that clue further. Because memory reconsolidation explains what the replay is. It doesn't explain why certain conversations get looped endlessly while others just dissolve. That requires a second key. Psychologists have a concept called the Zeigarnik Effect, named for Soviet psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, who first documented it in 1927 under circumstances that feel almost too on the nose. Zeigarnik noticed something in a Vienna cafe. Waiters had a remarkable ability to hold complex, ongoing orders in precise detail. But the moment an order was completed and paid for, it vanished from memory almost instantly. The unfinished held attention. The finished released it. What Zeigarnik identified is that your brain has a built-in completion drive. Unresolved experiences create an open cognitive loop, a low-level background process that keeps running until closure is found. And a conversation that ended ambiguously, or badly, or without you saying what you actually meant, that is an open loop. Your brain cannot file it because it doesn't know where the story ends. So it returns to it, not out of weakness, out of an architectural need to finish what was started. That isn't rumination. That's your brain doing its job. But the Zeigarnik effect still doesn't explain the intensity. Why some replays feel almost physically uncomfortable. Why certain conversations return with an urgency that other memories simply don't carry. For that, you need the third piece, and this one is the most personal. Research on self-concept and social cognition has identified a consistent pattern. The conversations most likely to be replayed obsessively share one specific feature. They touch something about how you see yourself. Not just what you said revealed. What the other person's response confirmed or denied about your value, your intelligence, your likability, your place in that relationship. Researcher Mark Leary at Duke University spent decades studying what he calls the sociometer, your brain's internal gauge for social acceptance and rejection. And what he found is that this system never switches off. It's always running in the background, quietly tracking how you're landing, whether you are in the deepest social sense. Okay, When a conversation activates that system, when something was said that left you feeling dismissed, misunderstood, or like you came across as someone you're not, the brain flags it as unresolved threat data. And unresolved threat data doesn't get filed away. It stays active. It keeps surfacing until the brain decides the threat is understood well enough to be contained. The replay isn't really about the other person at all. It's about what that conversation seemed to say about you, and whether you've decided to believe it. Here's what most people are never told about this, and it shifts the entire frame. The tendency to deeply and repeatedly review social interactions is consistently associated in psychological research with higher empathy, higher social intelligence, and what researchers call theory of mind, the capacity to accurately model other people's inner states. The same brain that can't let a conversation go is, by the same mechanism, the brain that understands people more deeply than most. The replay isn't a bug in an anxious system. It's a feature of one that is highly, almost unusually, attuned. You're not overthinking because something is wrong with you. You're processing at a depth that most brains simply don't reach. Here's something most people never stop to notice. The conversations you replay most intensely are almost never the ones where something practically important was at stake. They're the ones where something emotionally important was. A moment you felt unseen. A response that landed wrong and you still don't fully understand why. Something you said that you wish you could take back. Not because it had consequences, but because it didn't feel like you. It represented you inaccurately to someone whose view of you mattered. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect, the tendency to believe others notice and remember our missteps far more than they actually do. Research from Thomas Gilovich at Cornell found that people dramatically and consistently overestimate how much attention others are paying to them. The other person has almost certainly moved on. They're running their own replays about their own moments. But your brain only has access to your side of the experience. And from your side, the moment still feels open, still feels watched, still feels like data that needs to be reconsidered before it can be filed. The replay is your brain trying to reach a verdict about itself, and it keeps retrying because it hasn't found one it fully trusts yet. Pull all of this back and look at what you actually have. Cognitive neuroscientist Mary Helen Immordino Yang at the University of Southern California has done landmark research on what happens in the brain during inward-focused reflection. What she found is that the regions most active during deep self-reflection, during exactly the kind of processing that replays produce, are the same regions associated with moral reasoning, empathy, and the development of a coherent personal narrative. The sense of who you are and how you move through the world isn't built in moments of action. It's built in the quiet, in the processing, in the replays. Your brain isn't dragging you back into those conversations to hurt you. It's dragging you back because it's doing the slow, essential work of understanding who you are. The replays are where meaning gets made, where identity gets refined, where you figure out, gradually, what kind of person you're trying to be in a world that doesn't always make that easy. You're not someone trapped in the past. You're not someone who can't release things. You're someone with a brain that takes its social experience seriously enough to keep working on it, that notices enough to care. That is searching, through every replay, for a clearer understanding of itself and the people it's closest to. You're not overthinking. You're deep processing. And in a world full of people who barely skim the surface of their own experience, that kind of mind is considerably rarer than you might think. The replay was never the problem. The only thing missing was knowing what it meant. And now you do. So tell me, what kind of conversation do you replay the most? The ones where you said the wrong thing, or the ones where you didn't say enough? Drop it in the comments. I have a feeling the answers are going to be very specific and very similar. If this gave you something you needed, hit subscribe. We trace the psychology behind why your mind works the way it does every single week. And if this one kept you watching all the way to the end, well, your brain was just doing what it does best.